Orchard Road, the commercial heart that once welcomed tens of millions of visitors every year, is now showing unprecedented cracks. Although international tourist arrivals to this island nation have recovered significantly, reaching around 13.6 million visitors last year, actual retail revenue has not risen in proportion to those impressive figures on paper. Quiet corridors and the closure of flagship stores are no longer temporary phenomena. Why is a country that was practically designed to be immune to failure and whose retail spending once accounted for as much as 2% of GDP now facing the gradual collapse of the very retail and tourism model that made its name? Let's find out in today's video. You probably remember the 1960s when General Motors or Ford were still the definition of American power. At the same time, on the other side of the globe, there was a tiny island that had just been kicked out of the Malaysian Federation in 1965. No natural resources, no military, and they even had to buy fresh water from abroad. It sounds like the setup for a massive bankruptcy, doesn't it? On the day Singapore was separated, its prospects were probably gloomier than a crashing stock market. But instead of growing rice or building ships the traditional way, they chose a path that Americans who admire efficiency might find familiar. Turning themselves into a completely outward-facing economic entity, they established the Economic Development Board, EDB, in 1961. Essentially, a team of elite salespeople. Their mission? Rolling out the red carpet, not for heads of state, but for multinational corporations. They wanted companies like General Electric and Hewlett-Packard to bring their money there. And to make that happen, they transformed the entire island into a special economic zone where capital could flow in faster than you can swipe a credit card at a busy store. The results were astonishing. From an island with a GDP per capita of only $500 in 1965, they surged to more than $80,000 by the 2020s. They didn't compete based on what they had, but by becoming the most frictionless place in the world to spend money. You know that frustrating feeling of waiting at airports or struggling through endless bureaucratic paperwork? Singapore seemed determined to erase that from its dictionary with a frictionless philosophy. They removed nearly every tax and administrative barrier to make business operations unbelievably smooth. Just look at how they designed their infrastructure. Singapore Changi Airport is not merely a place for planes to take off. It feels more like a giant funnel designed to filter for travelers with the fattest wallets. With a $1.3 billion Jewel Changi Airport complex, they turned layovers into shopping pilgrimages. The subway system was planned to guide you directly into the basement of shopping malls without ever stepping outside. With more than 7.1 million square feet of retail space in the Orchard Road area alone, Singapore achieved one of the highest store densities per capita on the planet. They didn't just build malls, they turned shopping into a conditioned reflex. They built breathtaking parks like Gardens by the Bay, but don't mistake that for pure love of nature. It was a sophisticated marketing tool meant to say, "Look, we are safer, cleaner, and more upscale than the chaotic neighbors around us." Combined with GST tax refunds directly at the airport, they created the illusion that everything you bought was a bargain, even though you were standing in one of the most expensive cities on Earth. And what was the result of all these efforts? Orchard Road was born, a non-stop conveyor belt of consumerism. With one of the highest retail densities in the world, Singapore successfully merged the concept of enjoying life with wandering around shopping malls. But look at the reality now. In 2025, the number of business closures in Singapore hit its highest level in 8 years, with more than 60,000 companies ceasing operations. On the sacred ground of Orchard Road, vacancy rates climbed to 7.1% in early 2026. These are not random statistics. They are red warning signals. Chinese tourists, the gold mine that once brought 3.1 million visitors in 2025, are beginning to tighten their spending due to the 5-year real estate crisis back home. Meanwhile, competitors like Bangkok and Kuala Lumpur are offering similar experiences at costs that are 30 to 50% cheaper. It seems that building a perfect error-free world is one thing, but keeping customers inside that world forever is another. When you stand in the middle of an orchard road lined with "For Lease" signs instead of the glowing neon lights of Apple or Louis Vuitton, you begin to wonder, has the world changed? Or has Singapore simply become too confident in a model that no longer fits reality? Normally, an airport is a place you want to leave as quickly as possible, but the architects in Singapore operate Singapore Changi Airport like an aerotropolis, an airport city where more than 68.3 million passengers each year are not viewed as travelers but as potential prey inside a massive retail theater. They designed the flow of movement with meticulous calculation across an area spanning up to 1,300 hectares. You want to get to your departure gate? Chances are you'll have to walk past dazzling flagship stores from Apple or Nike, with lighting calibrated so precisely that Rolex watches radiate the most hypnotic glow possible. It's no coincidence that the Crowne Plaza Changi Airport has continuously been voted the world's best airport hotel by Skytrax for 9 consecutive years. They want to extend your stay, what analysts call dwell time. Because in Singapore-style economics, every minute you spend waiting at the airport without spending money is considered a technical failure. If you think a butterfly garden or a free movie theater is enough to keep people around, Singapore apparently believes you are still being too optimistic. In 2019, they unveiled their ACE card, Jewel Changi Airport, a $1.3 billion steel and glass complex featuring a 40-meter indoor waterfall cascading down from a domed roof. There is something ironic about people willingly flying halfway around the world just to stand in front of an artificial waterfall inside an air-conditioned building, while actual natural wonders are perhaps slowly being forgotten. Jewel Changi Airport blurred the line between a shopping mall and a theme park with more than 280 retail and dining outlets. They brought in brands you would probably find on any busy street in New York or Chicago, like Shake Shack or Amazon, but placed them beneath a glass dome made of 9,000 specially engineered glass panels to create the feeling that this is a one-of-a-kind experience. With early check-in services for 26 airlines, they cleverly take away your checked luggage so your hands are free to carry more shopping bags. Singapore Changi Airport is not just an airport, it is the sales pitch of Singapore Incorporated to the world. It is how they demonstrate their governing capability, clean to the point of unreality and efficient to the point of intimidation. With 12 World's Best Airport Awards from Skytrax, Singapore has built an aura of soft power so strong that any investor stepping onto the island is almost compelled to believe the country is unbeatable. Every photo tourists take at the Jewel waterfall and upload to social media is essentially a free advertisement. They successfully transformed dry technical infrastructure into a symbol of national pride, attracting an average of 300,000 visitors per day to Jewel Changi Airport during its golden era. Before the pandemic, retail revenue at Singapore Changi Airport once reached a record high of more than 2.5 billion Singapore dollars, around 1.9 billion US dollars per year. But to sustain architectural wonders like these, they need a massive and continuous flow of people moving through them like blood through veins. Now, with Chinese tourist arrivals still not fully recovered, only reaching around 70 to 80% of 2019 levels as of early 2026, and this customer segment beginning to tighten spending, the glittering corridors of Singapore Changi Airport are starting to feel a little too large. It seems that building a cathedral of perfection is one thing, but maintaining that devotion in a world whose tastes are gradually shifting toward more authentic experiences is an entirely different challenge. According to the data, vacancy rates in prime shopping districts are no longer holding the ideal sub-5% levels seen during the golden years. In some segments, the figure has quietly climbed to 8% or even 9%. To put that into perspective, in commercial real estate, once vacancy rates hit that threshold, people usually start smelling the scent of an exodus. Ironically, while suburban malls where locals buy household items or grab affordable dinners still maintain occupancy rates above 95%, The golden belt of Orchard Road is beginning to reveal long stretches of emptiness. Retail sales data, excluding automobiles from SingStat, continues to fluctuate between negative growth and stagnation. Tourists are still coming, yes, but instead of walking out carrying heavy bags from Coach or Ralph Lauren, they are increasingly spending money at fast food restaurants. And as you know, the profit from a bowl of noodles or a burger could never sustain some of the most expensive retail spaces in the world. You can see satellite stores in lower-tier malls disappearing, consolidating everything into a single location at Marina Bay Sands, just to preserve the glamorous image. And the result? Older buildings along Orchard Road suddenly look like a smile missing several teeth. When flagship brands decide that operating costs and rent are consuming as much as 30 to 40% of their revenue, they leave. And when those giants pull out, the price paid is not just lost rent, it is the confidence of the entire ecosystem. Perhaps that is because analysts are busy revising forecasting models that once assumed Singapore was untouchable. Prolonged high interest rates and the rigidity of real estate investment trusts, REITs, have created an absurd disconnect. Landlords continue anchoring rents at record highs based on expectations from the previous decade, while tenants struggle with the reality that customers now prefer ordering through Amazon or flying to Bangkok to shop at prices 40% cheaper. The collapse of an anchor point like Singapore does not happen overnight. It happens slowly through leases that are never renewed, through silent hallways, and through the silence of those who once promised eternal growth. Perhaps in the end, nothing is truly fixed in a world where change is the only constant. Would you still be willing to bet on this aging model that is beginning to crack? Or are you quietly searching for an exit route, just like those giants already have?